So clearly something's happened because this thread popped up on the MMO subreddit. While I was on the MMO subreddit, apparently I just hate myself. So this user posted, Camelot Unchained enters beta 1. Camelot Unchained entered beta 1 like 7 years ago or something. It's been a while. I don't know how long it's been, but that game, if you don't know anything about Camelot Unchained, oh boy, you're in for a wild ride. Camelot Unchained is the spiritual successor to Dark Age of Camelot, a game that came out a long, long time ago. And then the creator, Mark Jacobs, went, you know what would be a good idea? Let's make Dark Age of Camelot 2. And people were like, fuck yeah, I love Dark Age of Camelot. Cool, we're all MMO boomers. Let's put our money together. We'll fund a Kickstarter, and you can create the game that we want. And what people thought that they were going to get was just Dark Age of Camelot 2, no crazy bells and whistles, just the game being made. What actually happened was Mark Jacobs had this grand vision of building a completely new game engine from scratch and delivering on something that was completely out of the scope and scale of what people thought they were going to get. At least in retrospect, that's what it looks like. And that was 10 years ago. That was a decade ago. And where is the game now? Well, it's under an NDA still, a non-disclosure agreement that only people who bought into a certain package level of the game can access. And they run tests, and almost nobody plays it. The subreddit's dead. There's like 3 terminally online people on there. One of them's a German dude that if you go on his Reddit profile and just scroll through and then Control F my name or the word YouTube, he just constantly talks about me, lies about me, and for some reason is one of the only German furries that isn't in my Discord server, which is crazy. They released this game. It was originally called Ragnarok Unchained, and they crowdfunded this. And basically, to cut a long story short again, to crowdfund it, they posted a website which allowed you to see how many packages had been purchased and the prices of the packaging. And I went through and tallied it all up of what they'd sold, and they'd crowdfunded like $3,000. Again, made up number, I can't remember what it was, but it was like a person's monthly salary. And that's what they managed to raise for this, because nobody wanted it. And I bought this game, refunded it of course, because it's dog shit. But I bought this game and played it, and I had to play on my own because nobody plays it. There's 7 user reviews. It doesn't even have a review score, and it's been out since October 29th, 2021. They posted this in early access. There's some like mad quote where Mark Jacobs says something along the lines of like, with this investment, we'll be able to get Final Stand Ragnarok to release. And it's like, it's already released. It's released in early access, but it's released and nobody plays it. Like, literally, there's like 0 users. I think it peaked out at like 20 players ever. Nobody wants this shit. People wanted the MMO. They didn't want this. At the time when this game got announced, it's what caused like the big divide in the community, because people were already upset that we were like 8 years into waiting for Camelot Unchained and it still wasn't even out of beta. And the beta, by the way, is essentially an alpha and has been for a real long time. But then they're like, oh yeah, big announcement, guys. Look at this new game that nobody asked for, that has clearly taken resources from the game that you did ask and pay for and waited for. And Mark essentially said the money that we got was to invest in things like this and to make other games. So none of the resources that was earmarked for Camelot Unchained actually went to this. Which is fair enough, that's how investment can work. But at the same time, we've had testimony from employees that have left the studio that have said things like, oh, you know, the focus is just not where it was originally. Read between the lines here. They're saying the focus is not on the MMO anymore. It's clearly on building the engine and then making other games. And at this point, if you release an MMO that started development 10 years ago, it's probably going to be out of date by the time it comes out, of course. It's not even remotely close to ready. We're talking at least another 2 or 3 years, if at all. I don't have any faith it's going to release personally. I know a lot of people still do, and I'd love to see it release for the fans and for Mark as well, because I don't think Mark's like a malevolent person. I don't think Mark's a bad person. I don't think he's doing anything that's like unreasonable as a business owner. I just think that from a purely consumer perspective, when people want the MMO, pay for the MMO, think that the MMO is going to be the forefront of focus and not an engine, that nobody cares about the engine, man. That's my whole point in talking about this. Nobody cares about the engine. The players, the people who funded the game, they just want the game. The Dark Age of Camelot fans, the super fans that still wake up in their Jimmy Jams from fucking the late 90s or whatever it was, early 2000s, run downstairs on Christmas morning hoping that Camelot Unchained's released finally and it's playable and they can have a good time. Transport back to the golden days when they enjoyed the game. They're the people who this is for and put their faith in Mark, and they're the people that are most hurt by the fact that this is what they're getting, and Camelot Unchained still isn't any closer from what I've seen to being released. And they don't really release a lot of stuff publicly in terms of gameplay and things like that, because building an MMO is mostly back-end work, right? It's mostly stuff that's under the surface that you can't see. And if you're doing a lot of showing people things that isn't technical things that you're showing, either the game's really close to being done, or you're basically wasting your development time prettying things up to be able to show people stuff, which is not good. But also in 10 years, like, try and find me a trailer of Camelot Unchained, any kind of marketing material, any kind of anything that makes the project look good from the last couple of years. You won't be able to, because this is like the 8-year-old video. Because if you go on their YouTube, what you'll find is just like these little demos from years ago that are like a minute long. There's no trailers, there's no like in-depth gameplay or anything. It's not marketed well, it's not shown well. It's just, in my opinion, the definition of a poorly managed product in the public eye. But again, I don't think there's anything like untoward going on in terms of what they're entitled to do. I don't think this is a scam. I just want to make that very clear from the outset. And that's a very long story to give you context of talking about this. So this person posted saying they've secured 15 million in new funding. Yeah, it was a couple months ago. Old news at that point. It's expanding its team and has entered beta 1. Entered beta 1 so long ago, I don't even fucking remember when it was. I'm going to burn myself out on Jedi Survivor since I already bought it, but after that I'm going to jump into Camelot Unchained beta now that there is an affordable package top-in with it $60. It just kind of reads like this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, or it's a psyop or something. I don't get it. I can't wait. You'll fucking well be waiting, mate. Gameplay videos from over 5 years ago looked great despite having no textures. Right? I can't wait to see the world, check out the mechanics, and get killed because I'm a noob. There'd have to be people to kill you first. In time, though, the people will learn to fear me. Yeah. I know all about the drama and clickbait streamer stuff. Now, this is what made me perk up a little bit, because this obviously refers to me, which I don't know how you can know about the clickbait streamer stuff. Not a streamer, by the way, I'm a YouTuber. Without knowing that this game's been in what I would describe as development hell. It's not released 10 years later. It's been in beta 1 for all this time. You didn't even know that. So you can't know that much about it. It's not drama. And then he says that's okay because what have they ever done? I don't know, mate. Nothing, apparently. Nothing. To just inform people about things that they should be informed on. But obviously he's talking about me here, because if you go on YouTube and you just search Camelot Unchained, it's me. Most of the videos about Camelot Unchained on YouTube are me. And it's covering this stuff. It's me speaking to past or present employees. It's me talking about what people have said, reading between the lines. It's me talking about their community responses to things, and my opinion on the project, and things that Mark has said. None of that is clickbait. Camelot Unchained, the mmorpg in beta after a decade. That is a statement of objective truth. It is the mmorpg that is in beta after a decade. Jacobs has created 2 of my favourite MMOs, and he is a pro, so it just flows like water off a duck's back. This guy sounds like Mark Jacobs' penis is deeply embedded in his throat. What flows off his back like water? Because this game's been in development for a decade. He does what he has done since he was a kid, and he's creating a new world for us to explore. I would say this turn of luck is a great sign, but realistically it was a lot of hard work and not luck at all, which is an even better sign. So I'm stoked and can't wait to jump into this partially textured buggy gameplay. Amazing. Well, actually, I should say jump into some partially textured buggy gameplay from a game actually still in testing instead of lol. I will toss in some links below to the official content, and maybe after I'm in-game I can talk them into releasing a bit of new stuff, but either way they'll probably drop the NDA closer to launch. I mean, they've had an NDA for a decade, so I don't know when's launch going to be. And here you go, look, the weekend test servers were going up. It's been 3-day test every week for a long time. If there's new news, great, but this looks exactly like the stuff that led me to buy a pack years ago at $60. Is this all one person on multiple accounts having a conversation about 3 to 5 year old news? Just, bro, please beam me the fuck up. I agree 100%, but this isn't that situation. Talking about Star Citizen, another serially overfunded, underdelivered project, but is incomparable because Star Citizen's raised 550. People always love to do this thing when you talk about projects and try to compare them. What they'll say is, if you give like a true statement about it, they'll say, oh, you're misrepresenting this situation because Star Citizen has more than this game. And in my brain, I'm like, but you're misrepresenting that situation. You're saying I'm misrepresenting, because while Star Citizen does have more, they also raised $550 million. This raised like 4 from the public or something, or even less than that, and like 30 privately. So obviously, if one raises 550 and has been in development for the same amount of time, you would fucking hope that there's more. You would really sincerely hope so. Otherwise, where the fuck is that extra $500 million gone? But that's what everyone always says anytime you say, yeah, Star Citizen's another game just like this. They go, no, you know nothing about Star Citizen because Star Citizen has more game. They've got $550 million, you fucking loon. I agree 100%. And then he says, this is an extremely efficient project, going from like 25 mil to 40, which makes a huge difference. Where the fuck is this extreme efficiency coming from? It's been 10 years. It's 10 years. Motherfuckers have backed this, had children, and the children are starting secondary school at this stage. Or the other ones have died, not the children, the adults. The people who were playing Dark Age of Camelot when it released and were paying for a subscription fee and stuff, because obviously most kids didn't play MMOs back then. Some of these dudes have died waiting for this game. Extremely efficient. Yeah, alright then. And then, of course, he says Final Stand Ragnarok was a test model. Yeah, I can see that. Test model on as a game that doesn't even mention the MMO. Doesn't even mention the MMO in the marketing material. Just says the Unchained engine. Doesn't mention the MMO. Doesn't even talk about it, is a standalone product called a standalone name, doesn't mention Camelot Unchained, that has a box price. Yeah, it's a test module then, is it? You're not interfacing with reality. Maybe it's your brain that's not extremely efficient. If it brought in a little money, great. It didn't. It cost money. Yes, they've had trouble raising funds ever since predatory streamers started piling on them to try to create a name for themselves. I've got a name, I've had a name, I've been having a name. I don't need Camelot Unchained to have any kind of name. Also, I'm not a streamer. I personally would have sued, but the predatory streamers probably have nothing to take. If they did, they would not need to do what they do. I didn't even read this before I opened this. These guys are fucking idiot. What's predatory about giving your opinion about it? You're giving your opinion now. Should I sue you, dickhead? Are you a predatory Reddit commenting dickhead? Because you're posting how you would sue me because I gave an opinion you don't like on the internet. And they've not had a problem raising funds. Before I even spoke about Camelot Unchained, people wanted refunds for the game because the game's been at that point, the game had been in development for 8 years before I even talked about it. Predatory streamers. Holy shit. Here we go. Look, another classic that people do. Another game that didn't take crowdfunding, that people didn't even know was really in development, took 12 years from a company that has released so many blockbuster games that you just knew it was eventually going to release, or they'd scrap it and release another game in its place. And Throne and Liberty took NCSoft 13 years. Yeah, it was in development hell. We know that. They admitted that, and the game changed so many times and had so much money wasted, but not your money. And then somebody rightly points out, both of those companies have brought many games to market. What has City State released? And he says the company none. They released Final Stand Ragnarok. You said it's a test. It's not. It's a game that's released on Steam. And he says the AOC and Warhammer Online, that was not just Jacobs. That was 2 totally different studios. Like, these are studios that existed, not just Jacobs starting his own studio. So irrelevant. And also, when did Dark Age of Camelot release? 2001. So you're telling me you're saying, oh, it's fine. He's got credibility that this is definitely going to release and it's definitely going to do well because he released the game 22 years ago. A year. When did this one release? 2008. And of course, Mythic Entertainment had EA behind them as a publisher. Totally different scenario, but still 15 years ago. 15 years ago. Half my life, basically. Oh my god, I didn't even know he'd made so many... I'm living this motherfucker's head rent-free. Yes, they brought plenty of games to the market, and it's still to them that long. So are the complaints rational? Of course not. If you can point out a single irrational argument I've made about this, feel free. I'd love to engage with that one. People just need to use their own heads. Let me just highlight this one a couple more times so people can see it. And not parrot what some loser neckbeard streamer says. I'd love to be so uninformed on someone else's opinion that I don't even know what their profession is. Or maybe he's one of those people, though, that watches a YouTube video and then talks to the screen because he thinks that person can hear them. And they're not just, a face and a voice on their screen and in their headphones. It does seem like that's the case, to be honest. It makes you laugh. He's saying reality is a pesky thing. Oh, mate, please. Well, man, some of us have experience and some of us get info from streamers reliant on slander to make money. I was a tester for D3 for 12 years. You can believe what you like, but your ignorance doesn't equal other people's knowledge. Holy shit. A mod deleted that comment. Why did a mod delete that comment? I mean, he's accusing people of slander. That's probably not the best idea. But there we go. That's Camelot Unchained. Like I say, I have nothing against Mark Jacobs. I wish the game would come out. I do have something against consumers like this person, who's not even a customer of the project, by the way. He clearly hasn't followed the project to have any kind of opinion on anything. Saying that other people are uninformed when you don't even know what the people you were claiming are uninformed are fucking saying. You've not interacted with anything. You didn't even know that this game had been in beta already. You literally watched a gameplay video and then been like, yeah, this looks cool. I might buy this. You've not even bought it. It's crazy to me. And then you're like, oh, Mark Jacobs should have sued people. For what? For what? It's absolutely insane. There we go. That's another just chronically unhinged MMORPG subreddit user. And like I say, hopefully Camelot Unchained does come out, but is it going to at this point? They've got the money for it now, of course, another 15 mil. It looks like that's obviously going to move the needle and hopefully make sure the game does come out. But when it does, are people really going to care? Like, I know at the moment there's definitely a space for a game like Camelot Unchained in the market. There 100% is. And I know Mark Jacobs isn't a bad person. I know he's going to be trying to fulfill that space because of course he is. He loves the genre, always has done, and probably always will do. This is the thing that people get twisted. I don't think if you fail, or at least in my eyes, in my opinion, and subjectively how I see failure, which would be 10 years and still in beta and not even that much closer to release, I don't think that makes you a bad person. And at the end of the day, I know for a fact that if you got into developing MMOs in like the early 2000s when it was like a fledgling market where there wasn't really any money in it, I know you did that because you were passionate about the space. It's like people who originally started making video games when there wasn't really money in it. It's like the first people into a space when it's not corporate, when there's not big bucks, are usually the people who are passionate about it. So I know at least then, and I would assume still now, Mark Jacobs is passionate about making the games that he's making. But at the same time, I don't think that excuses the project not being in a state that I think would be fitting for 10 years down the line when people thought they were getting one thing and then they still don't have it and potentially might never have it. But there we go. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Peace out.